The Silent Smile. Like many horror stories, this one takes place in a hospital, a small one located on the outskirts of town. Surrounded by hills and water, the hospital is nestled among thick trees. At night, when the wind picks up, the rustling leaves give off a sinister feeling. Let's begin by understanding the layout. Upon entering the hospital gates, one first sees the outpatient building, followed by the inpatient ward, and at the very back stands the morgue. A patch of open ground stretches between the inpatient ward and the morgue, with a winding stone path cutting through overgrown weeds. It's natural to be uneasy about a morgue. Whether it's fear of the dead or fear of death itself, we all share the instinct to keep our distance. The morgue stands in emptiness, wind sweeping its surroundings, amplifying the dread. This hospital sees few patients. The morgue is often empty, damp, and shrouded in darkness, filled with the musty smell of mildew. There is no one assigned to guard it. A small black window offers a glimpse inside, like a crude womb, quietly collecting discarded lives. One day, a male corpse was placed there, an old man, dead from cancer. His wrinkled face was like a deeply carved spiderweb. Rumor had it he was timid when alive, scared even of cats. But once he became a corpse, people began to fear him, not for who he was, but for what he had become. Perhaps they feared that frozen face, now just a photograph, might suddenly break into a smile. The body remained there for only one night. His family came the next morning to take him to the crematorium. That's when something strange occurred. The corpse did smile. His pale, bluish face had been covered with heavy powder. His eyebrows were drawn into delicate feminine arches, and long false eyelashes adorned his lids. His bloodless lips were smeared with vivid red lipstick. The corners of his mouth curved upward into a grin. His family was terrified at first. They backed away in panic, staring at the body for a long time before realizing something was off. They demanded answers from the hospital, but the administrators were just as baffled. Still, the hospital decided to investigate. That night, there had been two people on duty, a male doctor and a female nurse. The doctor was Huang Yufeng, known for his reclusive and aloof nature. He had long hair, wore thick black-rimmed glasses, and always seemed to have another pair of eyes watching from behind his own. He never took off his white coat, not even after work. The hospital director summoned him first. The director asked if he had noticed anything unusual during his shift. Huang calmly replied no, his eyes meeting the director's with unwavering stillness. The director pressed further, asking if he had trouble sleeping at night. Huang again answered no. He said he rarely slept at night, and when asked if he had gone outside, he simply said he had read a detective novel. The director studied him but found no cracks. Next came the nurse, Gutong, a cheerful, outgoing girl in the midst of a passionate romance. She was the kind who brought warmth and liveliness to the hospital. When told of the corpse's condition, she turned pale. She recalled nothing unusual from her shift, only checking on patients, calling her mother, then falling asleep until morning. But she begged not to be assigned night shifts anymore, admitting she was easily frightened and never dared look out the window after dark. The director refused. Night duty was a part of the job, but she insisted, saying outright that she found Huang Yufeng unnerving. The investigation turned up nothing. Still, suspicion lingered. The director believed that if anyone in the hospital had done it, it was most likely Huang. But without evidence, there was nothing to be done. From then on, everyone avoided Huang Yufeng. No one spoke to him about the corpse. He remained unchanged, silent, expressionless, immersed in mystery novels, as if he were a ghost among the living. Time passed. The fear faded as it always does. The incident became a whispered tale, passed from mouth to mouth until it resembled more legend than fact. Still, the detail remained: the corpse had smiled. Gutong could never hide her unease around Huang. Every time she saw him, she would quickly avoid him. One weekend, after her shift, she was heading into the city. The long-distance bus stop was just outside the hospital fence. As she neared the gate at dusk, she saw Huang Yufeng sitting there in his white coat. Neither of them was on duty that day. He had no reason to be there. Frightened, she took another route, climbed over the wall, and made her way to the bus stop. Panting, she boarded the bus and found a seat, only to see Huang already sitting beside her, staring. She asked, startled, if he'd just been at the hospital gate. He denied it flatly. She made up an excuse about forgetting clothes drying outside the pharmacy, but it was too late. The bus had already started moving. The bus was mostly empty, silent. Diesel fumes hung thick in the air. The road was dark and deserted. Trying to dispel her fear, she asked why he was going to the city. He said there was no particular reason. She lied, saying her brother would be meeting her there. He asked if her brother was picking her up. She hesitated before replying yes. At the first stop, all the other passengers got off. Only the two of them remained. Gutong grew increasingly panicked. She tried small talk, asking where he was from. He said from a distant province. She asked about his age, his career, his dreams. He told her his greatest dream was not in medicine. What was it then? He sighed and said it was no longer possible. She asked if he had a wife. He said he used to. They had divorced. No children, just a cat now. She asked what his ex-wife did. After a pause, he said, beauty work. Gutong turned pale. As darkness fell, the bus entered a lonely stretch of city street, dimly lit and deserted. Just as the bus stopped, Huang adjusted his coat, ready to get off. He seemed to know exactly where he was. Gutong pointed to a stranger outside and claimed it was her brother. Huang calmly replied, "That's not him." Embarrassed, she brushed it off and quickly got off the bus. A dozen meters away, she turned around. Huang was nowhere to be seen. Another time, Gutong was scheduled for night duty with Huang Yufeng. A corpse had been brought in. Terrified, she begged the director to change her shift. She even threatened to resign. To protect her, the director tried to find another doctor to pair with Huang, but all refused, making up excuses, feigning illness, even pulling out imaginary anniversaries. Finally, the director asked the youngest doctor, Qin, a recent graduate. Even he begged not to be assigned with Huang, pleading that he was too afraid. As a compromise, the director asked him to investigate Huang's ex-wife. Qin later reported back. Through an old classmate of Huang's at the city hospital, he pieced together a story. Huang had indeed been married. His wife was a stunningly beautiful beautician. She'd left him to run off with a wealthy Southeast Asian businessman. Years later, she returned, her face horribly mutilated, claiming she had been attacked by one of the man's many wives. She and Huang spent one final night together. The next day, she drowned herself. The pieces began to fall into place. Once again, Huang and Gutong were scheduled to work a night shift together. Another male corpse had arrived, stabbed to death. This time, the director forced 3 male doctors to draw lots. The unlucky one, Dr. Zhang Yu, was chosen to work the shift with Huang. The director gave him strict instructions. Observe Huang no matter what. That night, Zhang patrolled the wards, but there were no patients. As darkness fell, he reluctantly entered the second-floor duty room. Huang wasn't there. Zhang undressed and crawled into bed, leaving the light on. Eventually, he heard slow footsteps in the hallway. The door creaked open. It was Huang. They exchanged a brief, emotionless greeting. Huang turned off the main light, switched on the dim bedside lamp, and began reading, his face ghostly in the low light. Zhang tried to engage him in conversation, asking about books. Huang replied that he read his dead father's old detective novels. He used the phrase before he died, not when he was alive. The nuance chilled Zhang. At midnight, a loud knock on the door startled him. It was Gutong, terrified. She asked for comfort, saying she was scared. Zhang did his best to reassure her, urging her to return to her room. Back in bed, Zhang attempted more conversation. He abruptly asked who had painted the corpse's lips with lipstick. Huang didn't look up. Maybe the corpse did it himself, he said flatly. Zhang had no response. He fell silent. That night, Zhang couldn't sleep. In the darkness, he heard Huang rise and leave the room quietly. He followed. Huang crept to Gutong's window, peering inside. The light was faint. His pale face was lit in a way that made it look monstrous. Later, Zhang saw something even more terrifying. Gutong, glassy-eyed, sat in front of her mirror, applying thick lipstick, just like the corpse. She spoke to her reflection in a murmur, then carried the corpse on her back down the hall into the night. Zhang followed, horrified, watching her bring the corpse into her room, dress him, whisper to him, then return him to the morgue. The next day, the corpse was again found fully made up. When Zhang accused her, Gutong denied it, weeping. The director was confused. Zhang began to doubt his own senses. What had he seen? 6 months later, the director devised a trap. He planted a fake body in the morgue and hid in a car on the hospital grounds. At 2 a.m., he saw a figure. Gutong, ghostly white in heavy makeup, walking toward the morgue. He confronted her. She said she was going to see a friend. He shouted, "You're sleepwalking." At that word, she collapsed. She had no memory of what she had done. In childhood, she had once seen a corpse in her village, a woman painted with lipstick. That image had scarred her. After being awakened from her condition, she no longer sleepwalked. But that wasn't the end. One final night, Huang entered her room with a smile. He told her his greatest dream. He opened his bag. It was filled with beauty tools. He pulled out a pair of gleaming scissors and stepped closer, his face serious now. His dream, he said, was to do makeup for the dead. He asked if she would be his model. The scissors pressed close to her throat. Do you enjoy nights like this? Give a like and we'll come again.